Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Our way back home, back to Godhead, by associating directly with Srila Prabhupada every day, hearing at least an hour directly of his purports read by a person who's really attached to them, and that's me. I'll cop to that. I'll admit that I'm very attached to reading these books. I'm going to tell you something. Oh, I don't have the phone. It's right on the phone. Anyway, my godbrother Tejas Das, here's what he said. I sent him the sample. Tejas Das was already a devotee when he met Prabhupada in India, and he belonged to the Peace Corps. And he learned language, he learned Sanskrit, he'd already accepted and understood, because he's very smart. New York Jew, smart. And by the time he met Prabhupada, he already understood a lot. But when he met Prabhupada, it was like, that was it. He could understand, he had met the master. So here's what he said. Hare Krishna, Shobha. Hare Krishna, Namachan. Listen to this. This is pretty far out stuff. Because this is Tejas. He doesn't ever say things like this. I do not flatter, although I say kind words. The clarity of your consciousness is clearly felt in the compatible quality of your reading and the recording itself. I could literally listen for every moment of the day. It is just as if listening to Srila Prabhupada and your reading does something in addition, that it allows the hearer to experience the superlative quality of Srila Prabhupada's pure mind and intelligence, which is a radiation of his pure heart, and the residence of Krishna there in loving exchange. Haribo. Outstanding, astounding, outstanding, 100% on the mark. You take the transparent position of being shiksha, Guru to all who listen, yet this is the perfect situation to avoid any chance of pride, because it is all Srila Prabhupada. Haribo! Haribo! And your credit is simply that you are transparent, yet adding the ecstasy of taste for each word and ever-increasing realization that come from rapt hearing and speaking. It is clear that you are as much hearing as you are speaking. Hare Krishna. That.
Who wrote that, Maharaj?
You want me to read it again? No, I started.
I can hear it online.
Oh yes, you do. You can rehear it, reread, rehear. Okay. Okay. Sanatana Goswami had something to say about the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and he was an eternal servant of Radharani in Goloka Vrindavan, so we can take it from him, right? Right. Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram from Sri Krishna Lila Stava by Srila Sanatana Goswami. It goes like this. Sarva Shastra Dipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarvalokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadayin adini chochatakara hanamunchagadachin mam premnarit kadayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So here we are. Whoops. Here we were. How did it get there? Okay. Here we are, Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 5. Chapter 5, 23. I went to the Bhagavad Gita somewhere because I did it in a hurry, and this is the lesson. Don't do things in a hurry. The more you do things in too much of a hurry, the more you make mistakes. And every time you make a mistake, you got to pay for it. Hare Krishna. That goes on every level. Okay. Yes. So, Rsabhadeva, the teachings of Lord Rsabhadeva to his 100 sons is one of the classic instructions in the Bhagavatam and one of Prabhupada's favorites, especially these and the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj to his students. I mean, not students, his classmates, which ended up being his students. These are some of Prabhupada's favorite verses for teaching us what the material world is, who we are, who we are, and what is the relationship. Okay. Text 23. O respectful Brahmanas, as far as I'm concerned, no one is equal to or superior to the Brahmanas in this world. I do not find anyone comparable to them. When people know my motive after performing rituals according to the Vedic principles, they offer food to me with faith and love through the mouth of a Brahmana. When food is thus offered unto me, I eat it with full satisfaction. Indeed, I derive more pleasure from food offered in that way than from food offered in the sacrificial fire. Purport. According to the Vedic system, after the sacrificial ceremony, the Brahmanas are invited to eat the remnants of the food offered food. When the Brahmanas eat the food, it is to be considered directly eaten by the Supreme Lord. Thus, no one can be compared to qualified Brahmanas. The perfection of evolution is to be situated on the Brahminical platform. Any civilization not based on Brahminical culture or guided by Brahmanas is certainly a condemned civilization. Presently, human civilization is based on sense gratification, and consequently, more and more people are becoming addicted to different types of things. No one respects Brahminical culture. Demoniac civilization is attached to ugra karma, horrible activities, and big industries are created to satisfy unfathomable lusty desires. Consequently, the people are greatly harassed by governmental taxation. The people are irreligious and do not perform the sacrifices recommended in Bhagavad Gita. Yagyad bhavati parjanya By the performance of sacrifice, clouds form and rain falls. Due to the sufficient rainfall, there is sufficient production of food. Guided by the Brahmanas, society should follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita. Then people will become very happy. Anad bhavanti bhutani. When animals and man are sufficiently fed with grains, they become stronger, their hearts become tranquil, and their brains peaceful. They can then advance in spiritual life, life's ultimate destination. Text 24. The Vedas are my eternal transcendental sound incarnation. Therefore, the Vedas are Shabda Brahman. In this world, the Brahmanas thoroughly study all the Vedas, and because they assimilate the Vedic conclusions, they are able to be considered the Vedas personified. The Brahmanas are situated in the supreme transcendental mode of nature, Sattva-gun. Because of this, they are fixed in mind control, Shama, sense control, Dhamma, and truthfulness, Satya. They describe the Vedas in their original sense and out of mercy, Anugraha. They preach the purpose of the Vedas to all conditioned souls. They practice penance, tapasya, and tolerance, titiksha, and they realize the position of the living entity and the Supreme Lord, Anubhava. These are the 8 qualifications of the Brahmanas. Therefore, among all living entities, no one is superior to the Brahmanas. Purport. This is a true description of a Brahmana. A Brahmana is one who has assimilated the Vedic conclusions by practicing mind and sense control. He speaks the true version of all the Vedas, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Vedaish chasarvardaham eva vedyaha. By studying the Vedas, one should come to understand the transcendental position of Lord Sri Krishna. One who has actually assimilated the essence of the Vedas can preach the truth. He is compassionate to conditioned souls who are suffering the threefold miseries of this conditional world, due to their not being Krishna conscious. A Brahmana should take pity on the people and preach Krishna consciousness in order to elevate them. Sri Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, personally descends into this universe from the spiritual kingdom to teach conditioned souls about the values of spiritual life. He tries to induce them to surrender unto him. Similarly, the Brahmanas do the same thing. After assimilating the Vedic instructions, they assist the Supreme Lord in his endeavor to deliver conditioned souls. The Brahmanas are very dear to the Supreme Lord due to their high sattva guna qualities, and they also engage in welfare activities for all conditioned souls in the material world. Text 25. I am fully opulent, almighty, and superior to Lord Brahma and Indra, the king of the heavenly planets. I am also the bestower of all happiness obtained in the heavenly kingdom and by liberation. Nonetheless, the Brahmanas do not seek material comforts from me. They are very pure and do not want to possess anything. They simply engage in my devotional service. What is the need of their asking for material benefits from anyone else? Purport. The perfect Brahminical qualification is stated herein. Akinchananam mai bhakti bhajam. The Brahmanas are always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Consequently, they have no material wants, nor do they possess material things. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 11:8, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains the position of pure Vaishnavas who are anxious to return home, back to Godhead. Nishkinchanasya Bhagavat Bhajanon Mokasya. Those who actually want to return home, return back to Godhead, are niskinchana. That is, they have no desire for material comfort. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises, Sandarshanam Vishayinam Atiyoshitam Cha Ha Hanta Hanta Vishabhakshanato Pisadu. Material opulence and sense gratification through the association of women are more dangerous than poison. Brahmanas who are very pure, who are pure Vaishnavas, always engage in the Lord's service and are devoid of any desire for material gain. The Brahmanas do not worship demigods like Lord Brahma, Indra, or Lord Shiva for any material comfort. They do not ask the Supreme Lord for material profit. Therefore it is concluded that the Brahmanas are the supreme living entities of this world. Shri Kapila Deva also confirms this in Srimad-Bhagavatam 3:29-33. Tasman mai arpitashesha kriyartatma nirantaraha mai arpitat manapungso mai sanyastakaramanaha napashyami padam bhutam akartu samadarshanat. The Brahmanas are always dedicated to the Lord's service with their bodies, words, and mind. There is no person, there is no better person than a Brahmana who thus engages himself and dedicates himself to the Supreme Lord. Text 26. My dear sons, you should not envy any living entity, be he moving or non-moving. Knowing that I am situated in them, you should offer respect to all of them at every moment. In this way, you offer respect to me. Purport. In this verse, the word bibikta drigbihi, meaning without envy, is used. All living entities are the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His Paramatma feature. As confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Andantarastam Padamanu Chayantarastam. The Lord is situated in this universe as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu and Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. He is also situated within every atom. According to the Vedic statement, Ishavasyamadang Sarvam. The Supreme Lord is situated everywhere, and wherever He is situated is His temple. We even offer respect to a temple from a distant place. All living entities should similarly be offered respect. I'll read that again. This is really important stuff. The Supreme Lord is situated everywhere, and wherever He is situated is His temple. We even offer respect to a temple from a distant place. And all living entities should similarly be offered respect. This is different from the theory of pantheism, which holds that everything is God. Everything has a relationship with God, because God is situated everywhere. But we should not make any particular distinction between the poor and the rich, like the foolish worshippers of Daridra Narayana. Narayana is present in the rich as well as the poor. One should not simply think Narayana is situated among the poor. He is everywhere. An advanced devotee will offer respects to everyone, even to cats and dogs. Vidyas vinaya sampane, brahmane gavihastane, shuni chaiva shapake cha, panditat samadarshinaha. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with eagle vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, outcast. Bhagavad Gita 5:18. This samadarshina, equal vision, should not be mistaken to mean that the individual is the same as the Supreme Lord. They are always distinct. Every individual person is different from the Supreme Lord. It is a mistake to equate the living entity with the individual living entity with the Supreme Lord on the plea of Vivikta Drik or Samadrik. The Lord is always in an exalted position, even though he agrees to live everywhere. Srila Madhvacharya, quoting Padma Purana, states, Vibhikta drishti jivanam jishnitaya parameshwarasya beda drishti. One who has clear vision and who is devoid of envy can see that the Supreme Lord is separate from all living entities, although he is situated in every living entity. Madhvacharya further quotes from Padma Purana, Upapadayet paramatmanam jivebhyo yakpade pade Vedanaiva nachai tasmat priyo vishnostukan kyoschana. One who sees the living entity and the Supreme Lord as always distinct is very dear to the Lord. Padma Purana also states, Yo haresh chaiva jivanam veda bhakta hare priyaha. One who preaches that the living entities are separate from the Supreme Lord is very dear to Lord Vishnu. Text 27. The true activity of the sense organs, mind, sight, words, in all the knowledge gathering and working senses, is to engage fully in my service. Unless his senses are thus engaged, a living entity cannot think of getting out of the great entanglement of material existence, which is exactly like Yamaraj's stringent rope. Purport. As stated in the Narada Pancharatra, Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatpadat vena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchate. This is the conclusion of bhakti. All the time, Lord Rsabhadeva has been stressing devotional service. And now he is concluding by saying that all the senses should be engaged in the Lord's service. There are 5 senses by which we gather knowledge and 5 senses with which we work. These 10 senses and the mind should be fully engaged in the Lord's service. Without engaging them in this way, one cannot get out of the clutches of Maya. Text 28. Shukadeva Goswami said, Thus the great will-wisher of everyone, the Supreme Lord Rsabhadeva, instructed his own sons. Although they were perfectly educated and cultured, he instructed them just to set an example of how a father should instruct his sons before retiring from family life. Sannyasis who are no longer bound by fruitive activity and who have taken to devotional service after all their material desires have been vanquished, to devotional service. Hare Krishna. She looks like she just came back from India. She looks like an Indian walla. That's the way they dress when it's cold in India. Okay, I'm going to start back a little bit. I'll start from the beginning of this translation. Shukadeva Goswami said, Thus the great well-wisher of everyone, the Supreme Lord Rsabhadeva, instructed his sons. Although they were perfectly educated and cultured, he instructed them just to set an example of how a father should instruct his sons before retiring from family life. Sannyasis who are no longer bound by fruitive activity and who have taken to devotional service after all their material desires have been vanquished also learn by these instructions. Lord Rsabhadeva instructed his 100 sons, of whom the eldest, Bharat, was a very advanced devotee and a follower of the Vaishnavas. In order to rule the whole world, the Lord enthroned his eldest son on the royal seat. Thereafter, although still at home, Lord Rsabhadeva lived like a madman, naked and with disheveled hair. Then the Lord took the sacrificial fire within himself, and he left Brahmavarta to tour the whole world. Purport. Actually, the instructions given to Lord Rsabhadeva's sons were not exactly meant for his sons because they were already educated and highly advanced in knowledge. Rather, these instructions were meant for sannyasis who intend to become advanced devotees. Sannyasis must abide by Lord Rsabhadeva's instructions while on the path of devotional service. Lord Rsabhadeva retired from family life and lived like a naked madman, even while still with his family. Whoa, Hare Krishna. Well, we don't want to imitate that one, okay? Prabhupada told us, don't try to imitate Lord Rsabhadeva. 29. After accepting the feature of an avaduta, a great saintly person without material cares, Lord Rsabhadeva passed through human society like a blind, deaf, and dumb man, an idle stone, a ghost, or a madman. Although people called him such names, he remained silent and did not speak to anyone. Purport. The word avaduta refers to one who does not care for social conventions, particularly the varnashram dharma, but one who is situated within himself, fully satisfied, by meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's funny, the Supreme Avaduta is Nityananda. Nityananda Maham Nami Sarvananda Karam Param. Harinama Param Devam. He's the Supreme Deity of the Holy Name. And Avaduta Shiromanim. He's the jewel of Avadutas. So here it describes that the Avaduta just takes off all his clothes, runs around, and doesn't act like dumb and deaf and this. But Nityananda, because he was acting like a renowned person, he would dress himself up in so much gorgeous jewels and fancy clothes that people said, this guy has nothing to do with spiritual life. And Lord Nityananda, he was in bliss because no one would bother him. Because in India, somebody who dresses like that, he can't be considered to be spiritually advanced. So he just tricked them. Therefore he's called Avaduta Shiromanim, the crest jewel of Avadutas. Okay. Okay. Such a person has already surpassed the clutches of Maya, and he lives completely separate and independent. And how he does that, it's depending on time and circumstances. She definitely acts like he just came back from India, because they don't care. They're completely, they're not conscious of these things at all.
Going through chemotherapy right now.
Oh.
Breast cancer.
Oh, I thought she looked different.
She's just feeling a little better, and she's coming for reading, which is
Oh,
amazing.
very wonderful.
She was feeling very awful.
Well, thank you for telling us,
Right
so that
now.
I can, Okay, thank you so much. Translation. Rsabhadeva began to, but even though before she was sick, she did that kind of thing. Because Indians do that kind of thing. Whether they're sick or not. Translation. Rsabhadeva began to tour through cities, villages, mines, countrysides, valleys, gardens, military camps, cow pens, the homes of cowherd men, transient hotels, hills, forests, and hermitages. Wherever he traveled, all bad elements surrounded him, just as flies surround the body of an elephant coming from a forest. He was always being threatened, beaten, urinated upon, and spat upon. Sometimes people threw stones, stool, and dust at him, and sometimes people passed foul air before him. Thus people called him many bad names and gave him a great deal of trouble. But he did not care about this. For he understood that this body is simply meant for such an end. He was situated on the spiritual platform, and, being in his spiritual glory, he did not care for all these material insults. In other words, he completely understood that matter and spirit are separate, and he had no bodily conception. Thus, without being angry at anyone He walked through the whole world alone. Hare Krishna. Purport. Narottam Das Thakur says, Deha smriti nahiyar sangsara bandhanakan kahantara. When a person fully realizes that the material body and world are temporary, he is not concerned with pain and pleasures of the body. As Sri Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita 2.14, Matra sparshas tukonteya shitoshna sukadukadaha agama payino nityas tungstitikshasya bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. As far as Rsabhadeva is concerned, it has already been explained, idam sharidam mamadur vibhavyam. He did not at all possess a material body, and therefore he was tolerant of all the trouble offered to him by the bad elements in society. Consequently, he could tolerate people throwing stool and dust upon him and beating him. His body was transcendental, and consequently did not at all suffer pain. He was always situated in his spiritual bliss. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 1861, Ishwarak sarvabhutanam vriddhasher junatishtati brahmayan sarvabhutani yantrarudani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Since the Lord is situated in everyone's heart, He is the heart of hogs and dogs also. He is in the heart of hogs and dogs also. If hogs and dogs in their material bodies live in filthy places, one should not think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His Paramatma feature also lives in a filthy place. Although Lord Rsabhadeva was maltreated by the bad elements of the world, he was not at all affected. You need a comma there. In the book, is that a comma or a period?
Period.
Huh?
Period.
Huh?
After affected.
After world.
There is a comma.
Ah, thank you. Therefore it is stated here, Swamahima avasthanena. He was situated in his own glory. He was never saddened due to being insulted in the many ways described above. Text 31. Lord Rsabhadeva's hands and feet, his chest, his very long arms, his shoulders, his face, and every part of his body were all very delicate and symmetrically proportioned. His mouth was beautifully decorated with his natural smile, and he appeared all the more lovely with his reddish eyes spread wide like the petals of a newly grown lotus flower covered with dew in the early morning. Poetry, pure poetry. The irises of his eyes were so pleasing that they removed all the troubles of everyone who saw him. His forehead, ears, neck, nose, and all the other features were very beautiful. His gentle smile always made his face beautiful, so much so that they even attracted the hearts of married women. It was as though they had been pierced by arrows of Cupid. About his head was an abundance of curly, matted brown hair. His hair was disheveled because his body was dirty and not taken care of. He appeared as if he were haunted by a ghost. So this is the glory of Srimad-Bhagavatam. The Vedas, the Puranas, the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutta, and Bhagavatam, they're all written in different Same language, Sanskrit, but a little differently, different mood. I heard Gopi Pranadana Prabhu the other day say that the Vedas, they instruct like a military commander. You do this, or we'll take you out and shoot you to being a traitor. And the Puranas, they are more like, or the Vedanta Sutra are more like father. And then the Puranas are more like brother, instructing you. More, a little affectionate and kind of equal to equal. And the Rasa Shastras, they're like lover, speaking in very intimate ways to convince their beloved to do something. So here you see all the difference. You see everything in the Bhagavatams, get everything. Therefore it's very hard for the scholars to figure it out, because they're only figuring out things by mechanical means. A certain dialect means it must have been done here by this person. Another dialect must be done from another. They can't conceive that Vyasadeva was the complete literary incarnation of God, and that he could speak all varieties of the language and give advice and injunctions even, and all the different rasas, different moods of language are contained within the Bhagavatam. So here you have these wonderful, let's hear the Sanskrit. Oh, this is very hard to read. This is prose. It's not verse. It's poetry, but it's not verse poetry. Atisugumara karachanorara stala vipulavav angshagala vinanadyavar. And it keeps going on and on like that. I can't do it properly because I'm not studied in prose reading. Anyway, that's very wonderful explanation. Text 32. When Lord Rsabhadeva saw that the general populace was very antagonistic to his execution of mystic yoga, he accepted the behavior of a python in order to counteract their opposition. Thus he stayed in one place and lay down. While lying down, he ate and drank, and he passed stool and urine and rolled in it. Indeed, he smeared his whole body with his own stool and urine so that opposing elements might not come and disturb him. Purport. According to one's destiny, one enjoys allotted happiness and distress, even though one keeps himself in one place. This is the injunction of the Shastras. When one is spiritually situated, he may stay in one place, and all his necessities will be arranged by the arrangement of the Supreme Controller. Unless one is a preacher, there is no need to travel all over the world. A person can stay in one place and execute devotional service suitably according to time and circumstance. When Rsabhadeva saw that he was simply being disturbed by traveling throughout the world, he decided to lie down in one place like a python. Thus he ate, drank, and he passed stool and urine and smeared his body with them so that people would not disturb him. 33. Because Lord Rsabhadeva remained in that condition, the public did not disturb him, but no bad aroma emanated from his stool and urine. Quite the contrary, his stool and urine were so aromatic that they filled 80 miles of the countryside with a pleasant fragrance. So, unless you can do that, you shouldn't imitate. Purport. From this we can certainly assume that Lord Rsabhadeva was transcendently blissful. His stool and urine were so completely different from material stool and urine that they were aromatic. Even in the material world, cow dung is accepted as purified and antiseptic. A person can keep stacks of cow dung in one place and it will not create a bad odor to disturb anyone. We take it for granted that in the material world, stool and urine are also pleasant. We can take it for granted that in the spiritual world, stool and urine are also pleasantly scented. Indeed, the entire atmosphere became very pleasant due to Lord Rsabhadeva's stool and urine. Text 34. In this way, Lord Rsabhadeva followed the behavior of cows, deer, and crows. Sometimes he moved or walked, and sometimes he sat down in one place. Sometimes he lay down, behaving exactly like cows, deer, and crows. In that way he ate, drank, passed stool and urine, and cheated the people in this way. Purport. Being the Supreme Personality, but it takes one to know one. In the 11th canto, I think it's the 11th canto, 9th canto, 9th or 11th canto, there's a story of the Avadhuta Brahmana that Prahlad Maharaj, while he was touring around, came in contact with. And he looked at him, and he looked just like it's described here, like Rsabhadeva looked, like he was laying down and he was all disheveled. But Prahlad Maharaj could see that he was actually beautiful and intelligent and learned just by looking at him. So he inquired him, says, "Why are you laying here like this? I can see that you're actually a very learned, beautiful person." And the person looked at him and said, "Oh, okay, so this person is not going to throw something at me." So he started to speak, and his words were like flowing river of nectar. Text 35. O King Parikshit, just to show all the yogis the mystic process, Lord Rsabhadeva, the plenary expansion of Lord Krishna, performed wonderful activities. Actually, he was the master of liberation and was fully absorbed in transcendental bliss, which increased 1,000-fold. Lord Krishna, Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, is the original source of Lord Rsabhadeva. There is no difference in their constitution, and consequently, Lord Rsabhadeva awakened the loving symptoms of crying, laughing, and shivering. He was always absorbed in transcendental love. Due to this, all mystic powers automatically approached him, such as the ability to travel in outer space at the speed of mind, to appear and disappear, to enter the bodies of others, and to see things far, far away. Although he can do all this, he did not exercise these powers. Purport. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 19:149, it is said, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataeva Santa Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Ashanta. The word Shanta means completely peaceful. Unless all one's desires are fulfilled, one cannot be peaceful. Everyone is trying to fulfill his aspirations and desires, be they material or spiritual. Those in the material world are ashanta, without peace, because they have so many desires to fulfill. The pure devotee, however, is without desire, anyabhilashita shunya. A pure devotee is completely free from all kinds of material desire. Karmis, on the other hand, are simply full of desires because they try to enjoy sense gratification. They are not peaceful in this life nor the next, during the past, present, or future. Similarly, jnanis are always aspiring after liberation and trying to become one with the Supreme. Yogis are aspiring after many siddhis, powers, anima, lagima, prapti, etc. However, a devotee is not at all interested in these things because he is fully independent on the mercy of Krishna. Krishna is Yogeshwara, the possessor of all mystic powers, siddhis, and he is Atmarama, fully self-satisfied. The yoga siddhis are described in this verse. One can fly in outer space without the aid of a machine, and he can travel at the speed of mind. This means that as soon as a yogi desires to go somewhere within this universe, or even beyond this universe, he can do so immediately. One cannot estimate the speed of mind, for within a second, the mind can go many millions of miles. Sometimes yogis enter the bodies of other people and act as they desire when their bodies are not working properly. When the body becomes old, a perfect yogi can find a young, able body. Giving up his old body, the yogi can enter into the young body and act as he pleases. Being a plenary expansion of Lord Vasudeva, Lord Rsabhadeva possessed all these mystic yoga powers, but he was satisfied with his devotional love of Krishna, which was evinced by the ecstatic symptoms such as crying, laughing, and shivering. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fifth canto, fifth chapter of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Rsabhadeva's Teachings to His Son. Okay, these are the Lord's exhibiting the standards of perfect behavior in this material world. Moving on to chapter 6. The activities of Lord Rsabhadeva, as if we haven't already heard some activities of Lord Rsabhadeva. This chapter tells how Lord Rsabhadeva left his body. He was not attached to his body, even when it was being burned up in a forest fire. When the seed of devotion, of fruitive activity, is burned by the fire of knowledge, the spiritual properties and mystic powers are automatically manifest. Yet Bhakti Yoga is not affected by these mystic powers. An ordinary yogi is captivated by mystic powers and his progress checked. Therefore, a perfect yogi does not welcome them. Because the mind is restless and undependable, it must remain always under control. Even the mind of the advanced yogi, Sobari, created such a disturbance that he lost his yogic mystic powers. Due to a restless mind, even a very advanced yogi can fall down. The mind is so restless that it induces even a perfect yogi to be controlled by the senses. Therefore, Lord Rsabhadeva, for the instruction of all yogis, showed the process of quitting the body. While traveling in South India, through the provinces of Karnataka, Konka, Benka, and Kutaka, Lord Rsabhadeva arrived in the neighborhood of Kutakachala. Suddenly, there was a forest fire that burned the forest and Lord Rsabhadeva's body to ashes. The pastimes of Lord Rsabhadeva as a liberated soul were known by the king of Konka, Benka, and Kutaka. This king's name was Arhat. He later became captivated by the illusory energy, and in this condition he set forth the basic principles of Jainism. Haribo. Lord Rsabhadeva set forth the principles of religion that can free one from material bondage, and he put an end to all kinds of atheistic activities. On this earth, the place known as Bharatabarsha, on this earth, the place known as Bharatabarsha was a very pious land, because the Supreme Lord appeared there when he wanted to incarnate. Lord Rsabhadeva neglected all the mystic powers for which the so-called yogis hanker. Because of the beauty of devotional service, devotees are not at all interested in so-called mystic power. The master of all yogic power, Lord Krishna, can exhibit all powers on behalf of his devotees. On behalf of his devotee. Devotional service is more valuable than yogic mystic powers. Devotees are sometimes misled. Devotees who are sometimes misled aspire for liberation and mystic powers. The Supreme Lord gives these devotees whatever they desire, but they cannot attain the most important function of devotional service. Devotional service to the Lord is guaranteed for those who do not desire liberation and mystic power. Quite a summary, eh? Text 1. King Parikshit asked Shukadeva Goswami, "My dear Lord, for those who are completely pure in heart, knowledge is attained by the practice of bhakti yoga, and attachment for fruitive activity is completely burned to ashes." For such people, the powers of mystic yoga automatically arise. They do not cause distress. Why then did Rsabhadeva neglect them? Purport. A pure devotee is constantly engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever is necessary for the discharge of devotional service is automatically attained, though it may appear to be the result of mystic yogic power. Sometimes a yogi displays a little yogic power by manufacturing gold. A little quantity of gold captivates foolish people, and thus the yogi gets many followers who are willing to accept such a tiny person as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a yogi may also advertise himself as Bhagavan. However, a devotee does not have to exhibit such magical wonders. Without practicing the mystic yoga process, he achieves even greater opulence all over the world. Under the circumstances, Lord Rsabhadeva refused to manifest mystic yogic perfections, and Maharaj Parikshit asked why he did not accept them, since for a devotee they are not at all disturbing. A devotee is never distressed or satisfied by material opulence. His concern is how to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If, by the grace of the Supreme Lord, a devotee achieves extraordinary opulence, he utilizes the opportunity for the Lord's service. He is not disturbed by the opulence. Text 2. Srila Shukadeva Goswami replied, "My dear king, you have spoken correctly. However, after capturing animals, a cunning hunter does not put faith in them, for they might run away. Similarly, those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind." I'll read that one again. Similarly, for those who are advanced in spiritual life, do not put faith in the mind. Indeed, they always remain vigilant and watch the mind's action. I was talking to a couple of devotees the other day, and I was telling them, if your mind is like disturbed by something, what you do is you just yell at it inside your mind. Just yell at it. Stop it! What are you doing? Don't you remember the last time you went there? And you suffered and I suffered? Forget it. Stop it right now. And then if you do that, then you automatically become aware of the difference between you and your mind. And the mind, which actually wants to be controlled, the nature of the mind is it wants tranquility, it wants to be equipoised, it wants to be neutral. It's not satisfied when it's always, it wants to be controlled, like a child. Wants to be controlled, wants to be disciplined. If you stop disciplining it, it becomes a little animal. Isn't it? Okay. Similarly, those who are advanced in spiritual life do not put faith in the mind. Indeed, they always remain vigilant and watch the mind's action. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 18.5, Lord Krishna says, "Yagyadana tapak karma natyajyam karyameva tat yagyo danam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam." Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. Even one who has renounced the world and has taken sannyas should not renounce chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Renunciation does not mean that one has to renounce Sankirtan Yajna. Similarly, one should not renounce charity or tapasya. The yoga system for control of the mind and senses must be strictly followed. Lord Rsabhadeva showed how severe types of tapasya could be performed, and he set an example for all others. I'm going to go a little later, because we were late to start. 4 minutes. Text 3. All the learned scholars have given their opinion. The mind is by nature very restless, and one should not make friends with it. If we place full confidence in the mind, it may cheat us at any moment. Even Lord Shiva became agitated upon seeing the Mohini form of Lord Krishna, and Sobari Muni fell down from the mature stage of yogic perfection. Purport. The first business of one trying to advance in spiritual life is to control the mind and senses. Shall we read that again? No objections. I get my no objection certificate. Okay. The first business of one trying to advance in spiritual life is to control the mind and senses. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15:7, Mamai bangcho jiva loke jiva bhutak sanatana manak shastranindriyani prakritistani karshati. Although the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and are therefore in a transcendental position, they are still suffering in this material world and struggling for existence due to the mind and the senses. To get out of this false struggle for existence and become happy in the material world, one has to control the mind and senses and be detached from material conditions. One should never neglect austerities and penances. One should always perform them. Lord Rsabhadeva personally showed us how to do this. In the Srimad-Bhagavatam 19:17, it is specifically stated, Matra swasra tuhitra va navivaktasano bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidbangsam apikarshati. A grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, and brahmachari should be very careful when associating with women. One is forbidden to sit down in a solitary place, even when with one's mother, sister, or daughter. In our Krishna consciousness movement, it has been very difficult to disassociate ourselves from women in our society, especially in Western countries. We are therefore sometimes criticized, but nonetheless, we are trying to give everyone a chance to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and thus advance spiritually. If we stick to the principle of chanting Hare Krishna, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra offenselessly, then by the grace of Srila Haridas Thakur, we may be saved from the allurement of women. However, if we are not very strict in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we may at any time fall victims to women. And we'll end our reading that. It's exactly an hour, 7:40 to 7:40, 6:40 to 7:40. All right, now we have these new fancy-dancy. Did we get any complaints yet? Whoops. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. See how it works? Okay. We got any feedback about the mics? Are they working all right?
Mics are alright.
Mics are good. Okay. So far, so good. So here's the open mic session. Anybody want to reflect on what we heard so far? The profound instructions and example of Rsabhadeva. Yes.
we read tonight. One who sees the living entity in the Supreme Lord as always distinct is very dear to the Lord. Also, one who preaches that the living entities are separate from the Supreme Lord is very dear to Lord Vishnu. But in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says that a pure devotee, constantly engaged in the loving service of the Lord, is identical with the Lord, who is always seated in his heart. Could you elaborate, please?
Yes, the Lord is simultaneously one with and different from the Supreme Lord. So there is a class of philosophers or spiritualists who want to prove that there is no difference between the Lord and the living entity. They are called impersonalists because they don't acknowledge the difference. They think that they're equal, and therefore they have no tendency or no inclination to follow the Lord's instructions and worship the Lord, because they think that all is one. On the other hand, we should see the qualitative similarity between the Lord and the individual soul, because both are sentient, individual sentient beings, conscious beings. So unless we see the difference, then we will not be able to see that we are actually infinitesimal and the Lord is infinite. Therefore, we will not have a tendency to want to submit and to hear submissively. There's a nice purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, first chapter, text 55, where Prabhupada points out that the essence of surrender is submissiveness, and to the proportion that we actually become submissive, to that degree we will be able to see the Lord face to face, if we become completely submissive. So how can you become submissive if you think that the Lord and you are the same? There's no difference. So you have to see the difference. But at the same time, you have to see the oneness, qualitative oneness. Something. Okay, who's next? You're allowed to you don't just always have to ask questions. Go ahead.
I was just wondering about what was the Lord thinking when he was doing the activities as we read?
Well, we have a hint. We have a hint when it says that he was crying and shivering, and crying and feeling ecstasy. He was feeling pure love of God. Even though he was God, he's feeling pure love of God. So therefore he wasn't disturbed by the externals, because internally he was not identifying at all with them. The more we identify with the external features of our body and minds, and then we also heard about that, how the endeavoring transcendentalist will always be very careful about the mind, because if you're not, it's liable to run away at any second and do whatever it wants and drag you along with it. And all of a sudden you find yourself doing something. Wait a second, I didn't want to do that. I remember, oh no, now what's going to happen next? And there you go. You're off to the races, into material anxiety, material frustration, and suffering. So he taught us in a particular way, because in particular, in that time, in that particular place, that's what was needed. And then we heard about, the king Arhat, who imitated, and then started the Jain religion, where they're wearing something around the priests, they wear something around so they won't do anything, It's extremism. even a good thing taken to the extreme can be a bad thing. A bad thing taken to the extreme can be a good thing. It's a matter of knowing how to do it. And Hare Krishna. And we get that knowledge by assimilating the Srimad-Bhagavatam. We make a deal. Assimilate the Bhagavatam and you have the equivalent of 5 PhDs. So you want to prove me wrong, assimilate the Bhagavatam. It's described there in somewhere that we read that Rsabhadeva tricked us all. He tricked all the fallen souls because, if they would have just treated him nicely, they would have gotten everything. But they were all only thinking, look at the externals, and therefore they were criticizing and throwing things and all these things, and therefore they couldn't be blissful. They couldn't get the bliss of pure love of God, where they could see everything equally and not be disturbed. So he gave us the perfect example of how to do that. So that he doesn't mean that we should all, run out the door, go naked, lay on the ground, and wait for something to, walk into our mouth so we can eat. In order to do that, you have to pass fragrant stool. Anybody can do that, then you're qualified. Okay. Who else? What else?
I'll say something.
Yes.
I'm,
Dr. Janaki, wait. You got to wait for the mic.
my
Both mics are working nicely now. Okay, good.
My reflection is similar to what you were saying. I see it that the Lord is just saying to mortal man that you can do anything, or you could display anything you want, and you basically shouldn't be bothered by what people think. That's how I see it. And the chapter was reflected on mainly self-discipline, which then teaches you to be centered and not to be, not to be influenced by other people. That's how my reflection.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's the beginning of spiritual life. It's the beginning of spiritual life. But we can't artificially, one thing is that we can't artificially imitate that, because the only way you can get there is by pure love of God, and that was his example. That you can't actually, that's an ideal, and to understand the ideal is good, but one can't actually achieve it, without developing or awakening one's full love of God. So that kind of detachment isn't possible just by some mechanical process or by the strength of our own mind or strength of our own sensual power. It can only be given to us by Krishna, and it only gives it to us. It only gives it to those who are actually in love with him. Okay, I got to stop now because I'm going to go record tomorrow morning. We're trying to work out some alternative arrangements so that we can not stop. I've had to stop too much lately. Okay. Rsabhadeva ki jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you all. Same time, same place, same station tomorrow. Hare Krishna.